Charlie?
Yeah, I'll cue you.
Yeah, but don't forget you got to focus the camera on my father.
Right.
And we're also on the loudspeaker. Yeah.
Okay.
My name is Dr. Sidney Langer, and I'm the director of the Oral History Project of the Holocaust Studies Resource Center at Kean College of New Jersey. I'm very pleased that Mr. Moses Langer has come to Kean College today to discuss some of his memories and insights into the years of the Holocaust. Mr. Langer, I want to thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome.
Could you tell me a little bit about when you were born, beginning with the date of birth, the month, the year, a little bit about the town you were born in?
Okay, I was born June 15, 1912, small little town in Poland. The name of the town is Wielopole, spelled Wilopole. Apostrophe
On top of the...
SKRZ. It was like it belonged to the estate. It belonged to objects. ROP CZIZ, I guess, objects. Okay.
When you say it belonged to ruptures, that means that
it was a little, I wouldn't say a state, it was county. I would say a county.
So the county was ruptures.
Yeah.
How large was Wielopole?
Well, Wielopole, the Jewish community was about 100 families.
And the non-Jewish community?
Well, most of the Jewish community lived in the market. There was like a market around, you know.
In the
houses, you know. It wasn't like streets that you have here in the United States or somewhere else. But it was a big, big market, an open place, and around there were houses, small little houses, and that's where the Jews lived.
So there was like a town square or a marketplace?
Yeah, like a marketplace.
And most of the Jewish families
lived in that marketplace.
Lived in that immediate area?
Yeah, well, there were some lived out of the city. It wasn't out of the city, but the city just was a few hundred feet out of the place.
What did most of the Jewish families do in the town?
Well, there were a few merchants, they have stores, all kind of stores, grocery stores, a few. And a lot of them were just going to the country, buying from the peasants, all kind of things, you know, and coming back to the city, selling it to the people who could afford more to buy it, right? And we also had every 2 weeks, it was like we would call here a flea market. People came, they brought in merchandise, all kind of things, horses, cows, and all kind of products. And people used to trade, buying, selling, and all kind of things. So the peasants, most of the peasants, they came, they sold the goods, then they were buying from the stores. Shoes, clothing, groceries, which most of the grocery was consisting of salt, sugar, kerosene, and all the little items like pepper and all kind of things, you know.
Was Wielopole an Orthodox town?
It was an Orthodox town, yeah. What do you call an Orthodox?
Was it a Hasidic town? What percent of the 100 families?
Everybody was Orthodox. There's no question about it.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was Christian. They were all kind of people. They went to different Hasidic rabbis. They went like there was bells.
Where was Bells?
Bells? I don't know. It was Galicia. Well, there was a few, I don't know, it was a few kilometers, I don't know, about 30, 40 miles.
30, 40 miles from Białopolę.
And there were some others. There was Bobiv, I would say the same thing. There was all kinds of things different, and naturally, there was always a friction between those people.
But if somebody was a Hasid of Bells,
Yeah.
he lived in Białopolę,
Yes.
where did he go to pray?
We only had this big synagogue, and there was a medrash.
There was one synagogue,
One synagogue, and
one house of study, based medrash.
I would say a house of study. So what most of the religions, the Hasidim, they done in the house of study, right?
Whether they were Bells,
When they were built, whatever it is, it was they done. And the other people, like I would say, more common people, tailors, shoemakers, cattle dealers, all kind of things, you know. There were the services in the big synagogue. However, when it came the high holidays, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, all these people dumped in the same synagogue, in the big one. And we have a lot of people, Jewish people, came from the countryside, where they lived, and they joined the services. And
were the
with
Jewish people in the
respect,
countryside, were they farmers?
well, they were farmers, and they also, some of them had grocery stores, mostly grocery stores.
Where did your family go to pray? In the large house of study or in the synagogue?
I couldn't remember too much because I was about 3 or 4 years old. We moved away from Białopolę. We moved to the countryside. It was called Białów, B-I-L-O-W. It was about 2 miles from Pilzno, P-I-L-Z-N-O. And my father was I would say a landowner. He was renting land or leasing. And we lived there for about...
Let me just ask you one question. What was your father doing in Białopolę? The same thing?
I don't remember. I was 3 years old or 4 years old. I guess he was dealing with whatever he could. But
Okay.
I don't remember what he was doing.
How come your family moved from Białopolę to...
Well, he tried to, he had to support a family.
Mm-hmm.
He tried to better himself.
Mm-hmm.
And actually my mother, she was coming from the countryside, you know, from the country when they got married.
Mm-hmm.
So they tried to better himself for the family. We were 6 in the family. We were 3 brothers, 3 sisters. I was the youngest. So where are we now? So we moved to...
So you're 3 or
Białów.
3 or 4 years old and you moved.
Right. And it was right, if I recall, there was a lot of pogroms. The people, the Polish people, they came from the army, you know, they were passing by. They always tried to break into the house because we lived on the highway. Next year there was the highway, that's the United States, but there was a highway, you know, horse and buggies, you know, we're going back and forth. And they broke in once, and we had services in our house. In other words, every Shabbos, Saturdays, we had a minyan, we had a Sefer Torah, and the people, the Jewish people from around 2-3 miles away. I would say 4 kilometers, which is less than 3 miles. And they gathered and they came where the services and where the saboteur. So once they came in, they started to look, the hooligans, and they tried to take away the saboteur.
This is the Bible, the scroll.
Right. And my father was fighting, and he begged them. He says, my son was in the war, and he was fighting.
Your oldest
My
brother?
oldest brother, yes. And he brought it, please leave it alone. Don't take it. And they let it go.
How old were you at that time? Do you recall?
Probably I was 5, 6. That was maybe 2, 3 years after we left. 5, 6, or 7.
Mm-hmm.
And we lived in this country for quite a while until I was about, I would say 13 years old. And that was bar mitzvah. And my bar mitzvah was, I became 13, and I wouldn't say the same bar mitzvah as my children had, the other American boys had, or having. My father took me on a horse and buggy, and we went to the city, Pilsner, as I mentioned before, bought a bottle of whiskey. It's not whiskey or schnapps or some, and my mother baked some cookies. I had an aliyah, was like l'chaim, that was the bar mitzvah.
And this was in your own home?
No, it wasn't because we didn't have a minyan in the middle of the week. It was on a Monday or a Thursday, I mentioned before, we moved to Bialef, it was near Pilsner, right?
No, sure.
But
you had a minyan in your home in Be'alav?
On Shabbos.
Only on the Sabbath?
Shabbos and high holidays, like Shin Yom Kippur, that's all we had.
Mm-hmm.
Except someone had a yurtzeit, and it was hard for him to go to the city, so it was very, very hard to make a minyan, so we had a minyan. So people came riding a horse or riding a horse and buggy, whatever it was, and we had a minyan, but very seldom.
Mm-hmm.
Most only Shabbos we had it. And my father was about Korah, he was about Tefillah.
So he read the Torah, he led the services?
Yes, he was doing very well, and he was a learned man. He was very, very learned. He was always learning. Besides, he was a very, very good mathematician. If he would be in these days, he would be one of the biggest mathematicians. Did everything by pencil, didn't have any computers, didn't have any calculators, whatever it was. And people came to him, young people, Jewish people, non-Jewish people, he should teach him, show them how to go around. He was very, very good in this. And also, he was very good in writing letters. Like you have a problem, and you have to write to the government, asking something,
Mm-hmm.
or make an appeal, or this and that. Instead of going to a lawyer, they came to my father, and he used to write the letters for him, for these people.
Mm-hmm. Where did he acquire these skills to be able to write letters?
Came himself, natural. It came natural to him. And he was interested always, he was studying, and I guess he was very, very smart.
Mm-hmm.
He could do everything. He could do carpentering work, anything in the world he could do. Things that I couldn't.
And what about your mother? Did she work, or was she at home?
No, there wasn't such a thing as working. She was home, she's a housekeeper. There were 6 children to take care of. And by the way, the house that we lived, it was a big house. No, it wasn't a big house. It was altogether. It was a big, one big room, a smaller room, and people used to go from one city to another. Merchants, like.
Salesmen.
No, they used to go, from the smaller cities, back, they went to the big cities to do the shopping, all the buying, you know. Where they bought the groceries, they bought the textiles and all kind of things, you see.
Mm-hmm.
So what they stopped in our house. And we didn't have, you know, facilities. And what did they do? We brought in some straw to the house and put some blankets. Usually people had the blankets or some sheets and they lie down, slept overnight. Mother cooked for them, made them some hot milk. Cooked the milk. You see, we were on a farm. We had quite a few cows. We had about, I don't remember how many. We had some horses. We had to work, you know, the field, you know, to work, yeah. And we had cows. What else did we have? We have poultry, you know, all kind of chickens.
Were you working on the farm between the ages of 6 and 13, or were you going to school, or both?
No, I didn't work. Maybe I helped, I don't know. I remember when I was maybe 12 years old, I tried to do some business. What I did, I put a burlap sack, if you know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the countryside. I used to buy some scrap metal, you know.
Did you? I'm sorry for interrupting, but did you go to school at all between the ages of
Or 12 or 13.
6 to 12?
6 to 12? Yes, I did go there. No, I did and I didn't. You see what used to be, at that age, they used to hire some young fellow.
Mm-hmm.
They call it a behelfer. And what he did, gathered a few students, a few kids, and usually he stayed with some family, and all the kids got together and used to teach them. He used to teach them how to write, read, and everything. And that was teaching, but there was a public school.
But he was teaching Hebrew and English studies?
Hebrew and English, mostly Hebrew, but there was a public school. It was like, you have public schools here, you know, the little towns, you have to walk quite a long way, which they were very strict. It wasn't, the teachers weren't too nice to the Jewish kids,
Mm-hmm.
the Jewish boys, you know. And actually our teacher was something like I don't know, like a queen. He came to school, the first thing you have, either it was a man, a woman teacher, you have to take a hand and kiss her, and bow, and everything. So I think, yeah, I did go to school. I don't know to what age, but I did stop. So, but all right, so how far are we now? Until I was 13, 14 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
From there,
What did the rest of your brothers and sisters do?
what's the rest of my brother and sister do?
Because you were the youngest.
Well, my oldest brother, he got married, and he went and leased a farm.
Leased a farm.
Leased a farm.
Mm-hmm.
That was quite a
What was his name?
His name was Naftula.
Mm-hmm.
N-A-F-T-A-L-I.
Mm-hmm.
He got married, he leased a farm, he was doing quite well, and then somehow our lease expired. You see, the farm that we had, it was leased, and you paid that much for, like here you pay for an acre. There you called it, I don't know what you called it. It was so many acres, let's say. You gave so many bushels of wheat a year. It depends what the agreement was. So it was a good, if the crop was good, it was good. If it was a bad crop, it was too bad you couldn't afford to pay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So then decided it was too hard for my brother to handle. So we moved in with a brother to the other farm, right? We gave up this farm and moved into with the with my brother.
So your entire family.
The entire family, and everybody was working on the farm, whatever you could.
How old are you when this happened?
When this happened, I was about 15.
All right, so when you were about 15 years old, your entire family,
Yeah.
nobody else was married other than Naftali, your oldest brother?
No, I had another sister who got married.
Was she still together with the family, near the family?
No, I think she's together. No, she wasn't together. I think they stayed in Villapola. They went back to live in the town. They didn't go with us, but I had two sisters
Mm-hmm.
and another brother.
Mm-hmm.
They went, and we all worked in the farm.
So when you were 15 years old, you went to your brother's farm.
Right.
Your entire family, except for your one
sister.
sister who was married in...
Yeah, she was...
what was her name?
She's Bila. B-I-L-A.
B-A-L-A. All right, so one sister was Bila, and then one brother was Naftali. Can you just give me the names of your other brothers and sisters?
Yes, my other sister was Leah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And and then I had a brother, Chaim,
Right.
C-H-A-I-M,
Mm-hmm.
and a sister, Necha.
Mm-hmm.
And then came me, and I was the youngest, as I said before.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, my brother, that's from the survivors, just one brother who came to the United States after the war.
And
And most of my, let's say I have two sisters, two married sisters. One sister has about 10 children, I would say. And my other youngest sister, this was Bila. And the other sister, Leah, she had, I think, 2 or 3 children. I don't remember. Because see, as soon as I became 15 years old,
I'm sorry to interrupt. The only survivor you said was one brother. Which brother was that?
Chaim.
Okay.
Okay, so we stayed in this farm.
You're saying when you were 15 years old, you were telling me why you lost contact.
Wait a moment. So now we stayed with our brother. Right? It was, as I told you before.
Right.
Then, I don't know how, I stayed probably about 2 or 3 years in this farm. That was near Krosno, K-R-O-S-N-O.
Mm-hmm.
The name of the of the country, not country, of the village.
Right.
The village was Kelkov, K-I-E-L-K-O-W.
Mm-hmm.
It was about 2 miles from Krosno, K-R-O-S-N-O. It was a bigger city.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm talking bigger city, about a family, about 500 families, huge families. It was a rather big city.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we stayed there about 3 years. Then we moved to another place. It seems it didn't work out too well. We moved. What did I say? Last time it was near what city was it?
Near Krosno?
No, it was near Costa, near Mielec. M-I-E-L-E-Z.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Then we moved to another village.
You were 16 when you moved to Mielec?
No, I was about 15, I guess, 15, 16.
Okay.
15. Then we moved to another city,
Well-
another village.
How long were you in Mielec?
There about 3 years.
15 through 18.
Yeah. No. 15 to 18, I wasn't 18. I was about 13, and we stayed until I was 15, and then we moved somewhere else. Right?
Okay.
Okay. So we moved to a place, it was called Kelkov, little village. It was near Krasno, as I mentioned before. From there, well, I had my two sisters and my brother moved together with us, and I went to yeshiva. I went to yeshiva in Krakow, which I think I was about 15 or 16 years old.
Did your other brothers go to yeshiva? Naftali or Chaim?
No, they didn't go to yeshiva. Naftali just the oldest one. He was a very learned man. He was a self-made man. He was also very good. He learned with my father. I mean, my father learned with him.
Mm-hmm.
He was very, very intelligent. And so I went to yeshiva.
When you were 15 years old, you went to yeshiva in
I was
Krakow.
15, 16 years old.
Yeah.
I was to yeshiva in Krakow.
And how far away was Krakow from
From
Kielko?
Kelkov, right.
How far away?
Well,
Not exactly, just...
we never went by car because we didn't have a car. The buses were expensive, but trains, I used to go by horse and wagon from one city to another until we came. I would say, how far? I would say about 35 kilometers or 40 kilometers.
About 25 miles.
25, 30 miles, yeah, I would say so. And there I stayed for quite a while in the yeshiva in Krakow. Actually, not quite a while I stayed there. I was there for about 1 year.
Was this a well-known yeshiva? Was this
The yeshiva, well, it was a yeshiva that it was organized by one Rabbi, Radomsk.
Radomsk?
Radomsk Rabbi. He was quite a well-to-do man. So what happened, he had yeshivas, tried to make yeshivas, and he put in a lot of money on those. His name was, what was his name? The Radomsk Rabbi, everyone knows.
Radomsk was the name of the town.
His name was Abinovich.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave a lot of money, and he had yeshivas all over Poland. You called it Congress Poland. Like Krakow wasn't Poland, Krakow was still Galicia. I was in Krakow for about 1 year, and from Krakow I went to Częstochow, right? The yeshiva.
Okay, how come you only spent 1 year in Krakow?
Because it was very, very tough. It was everybody ran to Krakow from the little towns, the boys came there. So it wasn't like a yeshiva you have here in the United States, you have a dormitory and so on and so on. But you had to, it was just tough. You ate different places every day, you ate a different place.
Mm-hmm. Did you go home, for example, during the year when you were in Krakow? Did you ever go home to visit your family?
I went for Pesach.
Right.
And that's the only time I went, it was expensive. And the parents tried to send you as much money as whatever they could. They did the best, but they were not too rich either.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, at the same time that I was away in the yeshivas, my parents moved back from Kelkov
Mm-hmm.
to Vielopolo.
Together with the rest of your family?
Together with the rest of the family. And my father, what did he do? He started to do some business. What was his business? Like skins from animals, calves,
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was quite a big deal, and he used to buy those when the people come and slaughter the animals. And that was making a living, which was a very, very hard living. Okay, so then I finished the yeshiva, and I was about 18, 19 years old.
Okay, I'm sorry. You spent 1 year in the yeshiva in Krakow.
And about 2 years in Częstochow.
And 2 years in Częstochow?
Częstochow.
How do you spell that?
T-O-C-H-O-W, Chenstochov.
Okay. Was that also a yeshiva, that the Radomska Rebbe?
That's right, but that was a newer one, and the people were very, very nice and polite. Today, you know, they took them with open arms because it was new. When you see, Krakow was, and by a lot of people came in. A lot of young people, young guys, tried to get away from the house. First of all, they wanted to study. They didn't have a chance at home, and they wanted to have a better living and a better learning. Okay, so I was how far we? Then I was about 19.
So when you were in this yeshiva, you used to eat at the homes of different people, you used to sleep in the dormitory in the yeshiva, or?
There was no dormitory.
So
it was like this. When you came, the people, you know, there were some organized, you know, the guys. So they gave you places where to eat, like Sunday, Monday, you know, every day a different place. And you ate there the whole season, the whole semester. At the same place, Sunday here, Monday here, and that. And the best things was Shabbos, Saturday. We were waiting the whole week for Saturday because Saturday you got the best meals, right? And you always, Saturday, some people who were quite well-to-do, they took in 2 or 3 young boys, and it was very, very good. So, and usually we stayed up Monday nights, and Thursday nights we study on our own, you know. Most of the boys study.
How large was the yeshiva? How many students?
How large was it?
Well, 50, 100?
There were 2 classes actually. Larger one about, I would say about 60. In both of them.
Okay. So you were in that yeshiva until about 18.
Right. And
And you said during that time your parents moved back to Vielapala.
Yeah,
Together with the rest of the family?
together with the rest of the family. Right.
Okay.
Then what happened?
Now, when you were, let's see, when you were 18 years old, that was in 1930.
Yeah, 19 years old.
It was 1930. You were born in 1912.
Well, I would say it was 1932. I don't know, maybe
Okay.
whatever it is, was about 1932.
Okay.
Then I went back to Krakow. Why did I go back to Krakow? Just for 1 year.
1 year to study in the yeshiva again?
Yes, I went for 1 year to Krakow because I wanted to be, it was a bigger city, and I was looking for something better. And I was already quite well known because I was in the yeshiva. It was very, very political. It was a yeshiva, especially by this Rebbe. And when you become a chusset, like Adam Chusset, you went for the holidays and everything, and that, you had a different approach, and you had a different reception, you know, from by everybody. So I went to Krakow.
In other words, this was recognized as a very important yeshiva, and the students who went to this yeshiva.
Well, it was competition because all the other Chassidish rabbis had yeshivas. Bobov had a yeshiva, Belz had yeshivas, but this one was the most popular yeshiva. So I went back to Krakow. I stayed 1 year in Krakow, and then I figured that's enough.
That's enough of?
Of studying. That's enough of studying. I was looking for something to do. So what I did, I didn't go home, and I went to try to get a job. I did all kinds of whatever I could, working in stores, working this and that. It was very hard. If you got a job in a store, it was something unusual, you know, it was very, very hard. So I did all kinds of jobs. Then I came back to Vielapala. Started again. Came back to Vielapala. Was helping my father about, I don't know, about a year. About 1 year. And yeah, I stayed with my father, my parents, about 1 year. And that wasn't, I saw there's no tachlis, there's no for this. So what
So
I
this
did,
is about 1933 when you went back to Gallipola.
1933 or 1934, around that neighborhood, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, I went back to Krakow, and I was looking for a job, and I was struggling. I really was struggling. So I decided to go to Bielsk-Biała,
Mm-hmm.
which was a most modern city. It's called Bielsko in Polish, Bilsko. I went there, so the first few weeks I got a job.
Well, how far was Bielsk-Biała from Krakow? Was it close
It
by?
was about 2 hours by train.
So it's quite far.
Say 2 hours. How many miles can you make in 2 hours?
120 miles.
It was 120 miles. Let's see. I stopped. About 150, 125 kilometers.
Okay. Bielsk-Biała, you said, was a very modern town?
Very modern town. And because it was before the war, it was a German city.
Excuse me. Okay, so you went to Bielsk-Biała.
And I was lucky. I got a job in a textile mill.
In a textile mill.
Textile. I got a job.
How large was this town, may I ask? Bielsk-Biała.
But I don't know exactly how many Jews were there, but it was actually a German town, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the people, even the Jews, were speaking. The people who used to live before was a German-speaking town. It was Poland.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't know, but there were a lot of mills, textile mills. And I got a job in a mill. Actually not in the mill, I was working in the warehouse. Rolling, goods came in from the mill, and used to cut the goods. Customers came in, wholesalers. And that was something very, very good. And I stayed with this company. His name was Frinkel, Frinkel. In fact, I stayed there about a year. But there was another company. They were growing very, very fast. This company was growing very fast. Two brothers. Their name was Rappaport. So somehow, and they were tough. Somehow I saw one brother going, and just in the street, I went up to him. I said, maybe you can give me a job. He said, asked me, what are you doing now? They were all Ger Hasidim, all these people, this and that. He knew me from the, what do you call it, the Stiebel,
Little synagogue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he started asking me questions, how he's doing, how I'm doing, what do you call it, at the Frankel.
Mm-hmm.
He started asking me questions. So I told him, I'm sorry, I can't tell you, because I'm working the SS, and I can't give you the secret. And he liked it very, very much.
That you were honorable.
Because he says, you come tomorrow to my place, and I will talk to my brother, which was his partner. There were eight brothers. They all they came from a family. The grandfather had a mill. The grandfather had about 5 or 8 sons, I don't know how many. They all had mills. And one of the father of this Rappaports, he had 8 sons.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, he was a very, very, very aggressive guy. So I got the job there, and I felt very good. I got paid very, very nicely. I learned how to weave. And I used to make money. I was single. I was sending money home.
Mm-hmm.
I used to go home for the holidays. I used to bring some material. And I stayed there till the war broke out.
You stayed, so you started working for...
Rappaport. No, I started to work for Franklin.
No, I know,
Rappaport.
but you went over to Rappaport after about a year,
Right.
so that's probably around 1935 or so,
1935, yeah, I was there about 1935,
and then from 1935 until 1939,
39.
you were working
Yeah,
with the
that's right.
Rappaport family. And let me just ask you a question. During those years, you're already about 20 years old, 21, 22.
All right.
You were aware of what was going on in Germany. Hitler came to power in Germany in 1933.
Yes, we knew. It was we had a paper, so every day we had a paper, we had everything. We knew everything. We had radios, we didn't have televisions, but but nobody expected that it's going to be that fast. Because they took most of the Jews, you know, they call it Ostjuden, East Jews. They kicked them out, they sent them to a place like, it was called Sponzin, S-B-O-N-Z-I-N, I guess, that's the spell it. They took all the Jews and put them all, that were the Jews who used to come to Germany.
Right, the Polish Jews who were living in Germany were...
Why did they go to Germany? Because in Germany the living was much better. They were peddling and this and that, you know. And so they took all the Jews, they gathered them and they pushed them across the border, the Polish border.
So, did you come into contact with a lot of these refugees who came back to Poland?
Yes, I came. In fact, I think there were a couple from my hometown, from Wielopole. Because my hometown was always Wielopole. I was born there, and always was always winding up going back. Not me, but my parents. So then the war broke out.
But there was clearly nobody thought that...
No, well, we were preparing everything. We had all kind of exercises and all kinds of things, and I was one of what do you call it, like a captain, in case an air raid from the Germans, what you should do and everything. We have lectures and this and that, but we're blind. The people were blind, you know, all the people, let's say the Polish people, like I was in the working, you know.
When you say you were like a captain, this was like a civil defense group?
Civil defense, right. So they taught us what to do, and we're digging ditches, you know, all kind of things. And
well, let me ask you, during these years, after Hitler came to power between 1933 and 1939, now you were in Bielsk-Biala from 35 to 39. Were there any noticeable changes between the Jewish community, the non-Jewish community in Poland, in Bielsk-Biala after Hitler came to power? Did you know of changes in Wielopole?
No, people used to gather in the market. They were talking politics.
Because in many towns in Poland, laws were passed between 33 and 39 restricting ritual slaughter. Shchita, for example, was stopped in many towns in Poland before the war, before the invasion.
Right.
And I'm just wondering if there were any changes in terms of the relationship between the Jewish community, non-Jewish community, yourself, friends, during those years.
Well, there were, but I didn't go that far. I mean, there's about slaughtering, you know, but there was always no shortage. You always managed. They give you allowance, you know, that much you can slaughter for Jewish population and so on.
Did any of your friends leave Poland and go to Palestine?
Yes, I have some cousins. They are now in Palestine, in Israel.
And when did they leave? Did they leave before 39?
Yeah, they left before that. No, actually, they didn't live in Wielopole, they lived in the country. And quite a few people, I would say friends and acquaintances, they went to Palestine. Yeah, they went to like there was a, what do you call it, Hachshara.
Hachshara. Mm-hmm.
And then they went to Palestine.
Did they go to
quite a few?
Did they go to Palestine because?
Yes, they went to Palestine because they saw what's coming on.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I tried to go too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most probably I would have gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to contact and this and that, but somehow I didn't want to leave. And a lot of people, that was a mistake, like my bosses. They're Rappaports. They're well-to-do people. That's a tremendous good business. They were just growing stronger and stronger in the business. Right? The things that on the...
Charlie, do you have to replace the battery?
This one's still good so far.
Okay, but okay, you tell me when to go. Just tell us when. Yeah, you were saying that when the Russians came in. Yes.
But there's a couple of things I forgot to mention.
Mm-hmm.
One thing, when I left Krakow
Mm-hmm.
in Lemberg, went all the way to Lemberg, right?
Right.
Well, how come I didn't mention nothing, my parents?
Right.
I didn't think, I didn't mention. We passed by quite a few cities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Vielapole, my hometown, was a site. We didn't pass it, it was out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
And what my plans were actually to go to Vielapole and to go to my parents. But we stopped in the city, and the Jews came, surrounded us with bread and whatever they could, helped us out,
In Vielapole.
Not in Vielapole, on the way,
On the way.
We stopped in many cities. We didn't go from Kharkov to Lemberg. There was a lot of small little cities.
Mm-hmm.
They were very nice, and the closest town was Ropčice, we mentioned before,
Mm-hmm.
the name Ropčice.
Mm-hmm.
And some people that I knew already, you just talked how to go to Vielapole. They said, if you have a bus, you on the bus and you are going, you have such a chance to run away to go to Lemberg. Don't stop. You don't know what is going to happen in Vielapole.
Mm-hmm.
Just go as far as you can. That's why I wasn't in touch with my parents at all.
Mm-hmm.
My parents, my whole family.
Your family.
Yeah. Okay. Where are we now?
The Russians come in to Lemberg, and things change for the better.
Fine, things changed for the better. The stores opened. There wasn't too much merchandise, and because everybody tried to hoard,
Mm-hmm.
and the Russian soldiers, they started to buy whatever they could get a hold on. Anything. They came to the store. They saw braziers. They were buying braziers.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know what it's all about. They just came with a lot of money. The rebels. They were giving they came to a store, to a vegetable store, and everything. You asked them, "Do you have this in Russia?" Just everything. They have us. Sure, yes. It means we have everything in Russia. How do you have it? Well, he says we have factories in Russia. They make it. They came to a grocery store, a fruit store, and they saw some oranges. And they said, we have this in Russia? Oh, sure we have this. We have a lot of factories that make these oranges, all kind of things, They're very, very ignorant. They didn't know. And actually the officers knew, But there were so many, but they were quite reasonable. So I was there, and then we started to deal whatever you can. My bosses, by the way, the two bosses.
Rappaport.
Rappaport. Took them about a week later, and they came to Lemberg. Afterwards already, when they went through hell, all kind of places, and the Germans didn't get a hold of them. But they went through other places, They came to Lemberg, and they started to liquidate the goods. what they had.
The Russians.
Not the Russians. The Rappaport had some goods
Right.
sent before. As I told,
Right,
said, as I mentioned, they shipped a lot of goods, different places.
Mm-hmm.
The peace goods,
Yeah, I
right?
understand.
Tools. So start to liquidate, sell them, you get cash in the money, you know.
They started, I'm sorry, right.
So we did, I helped them, I was a big help and everything. And I was buying, and I was doing quite well. And they opened some restaurants, you know, back, and that's how we used to gather people. A lot of people started to come in, and this, and some people went back to the Germans, you know, wanted to see their families, but they never came back again. They figured they would take out and this and that. Well, I never went back. I never had of the family. I did hear something. A man that he saw my brother, Chaim, someplace,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all I heard. Then it was getting,
But you knew, you were aware of what was going on in the other towns in Poland that the Germans had
well, we
occupied?
didn't know that much. No, we didn't know. It was the first few months, no, we didn't know, except a few people came. They said, well, here they evacuated these people, you know, they came to this, you know, but we didn't know. So it was coming, I don't know, there was quite a few months I was there. It came 1940. I decided I was single. I made some friends. And I did some business, you know, everything was black market. And the Russians started to be very tough. If they caught you selling anything or buying something, you know, it was a counter-revolution, what you call it, revolutionary.
Mm-hmm.
And either they send you to Siberia, whatever it is, you know, they have to do everything. So I figured it's time to get away.
Mm-hmm.
Where could you go? So there was,
Actually, a lot of the people who were sent to Siberia, in fact, were able to survive, as it turns out later.
Yeah. So where did I go? I wanted to go. They say,
You wanted to go?
I want to go away from Russia.
Right.
It was Russia. I mean, Lemberg before was. So I decided, and we talked to other friends, decided to go to Vilna.
Mm-hmm.
Vilna, you see what happened when the war broke out. So the Russians, it was Lithuania. You know, Lithuania was a border with Poland.
Mm-hmm.
So the Russians came in, and Vilna was Poland. So when the Russians came in, they took Vilna, naturally,
Mm-hmm.
right? Then they took Vilna, and they gave it back to Lithuania. Because 100 years ago, 50 or 70 before that, Vilna belonged to Lithuania.
Mm-hmm.
It was a small little country, I don't know, 2 or 3 million people in Lithuania. That was,
And Vilna was a small town?
no, but it was a big town.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very, very big town. So I figured out how to get there.
And why did you pick Vilna as a town to go to? That was
Because
considered a safe...
because it was Lithuania. You
Mhm.
see, the Russians took this, it was Lithuania, you go to another country, so you go to a free country. From there, you figured you'll go wherever you can. You go to America, wherever you'll be able to.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to get a ticket. It was a long way to go from Lemberg.
Did you have any friends who you were going to go to Vilna with? This was all by yourself, or?
No, really. I had a friend of mine. In fact, he was a rabbi. He was the son of a rabbi from our city. And his grandfather was a great rabbi, you know, Hasidic rabbi. He was also in Lemberg. And we decided, me and him, we should go to Vilna. You couldn't just go.
What was his name, your friend?
His name, we call him Nuta the Moves, Nuta Lipschitz. In fact, he lives now in the United States. He's in New York. We tried to get a hold of him. And so what happened? He disappeared. He just disappeared. I don't know what happened. He was supposed to go with me.
So he was supposed to go with you to Vilna.
Smuggle the boy to Vilna. I mean, it was a long procedure. It wasn't
Right.
just go.
Right. You had to smuggle across. You didn't have papers
You
to
had
go
to
across.
smuggle the border between Russia and Lithuania.
So Nuta Demrov disappeared.
He disappeared. So I was staying in line, buying tickets to go to a place that was called Lida, L-I-D-A.
Mm-hmm.
and we were supposed to go there. So I was staying in line. So a man comes up to me. The man was about, I was that time, I don't know, 26, 27 years old. He came up to me, he says, are you going by any chance to Vilna? You had to buy a train ticket to go to Lida first.
Right.
And I was afraid to talk to him because now you saw that you get so scared, Russia. Every other guy was a spy, not a spy, was a
Informer.
intelligent,
Mm-hmm.
You're afraid to talk to him. And I didn't know the man.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked to me. In Hebrew, he says, don't be afraid, he says. And just he called two people from his hometown, from Mielec. I think I mentioned here once before Mielec, but it's all right. And he called these two guys, he says, tell him who I am. And he told me, don't be afraid. He is from our people and so on and so on. He was so he said, why should you stay in line? Maybe 24 hours, night are closed, just to buy a ticket. It was called Orbis, O-R-B-I-S. Why do you have to stay? Why don't we get it together? He says, you will stay in line for a couple hours, then I will come, I will replace you, so we'll buy the two tickets. Made arrangement with him, and that's the way it worked out. We bought.
Do you remember his name?
Yeah, his name was Moshe Friedman. F-R-I-D-M-A-N.
Right.
Very, very nice man. The man spoke a few languages. He was already in the United States. He had his father in the United States. He was a married man. He left a family, a wife, I think 2 or 3 children. And we decided we said goodbye to our friends. We went on the train.
His family was where? You said he left the wife and 2 and 3 children. Where?
His wife in Mielec, M-I-E-L-E-T-Z, Mielec. I think I mentioned before the name
Yes,
that we lived there.
you did.
Okay. We went, we got along very well. We bought enough food, but took a lot of food at that time. You got everything, people. We got bread, and we got schnapps, and liquors, and all kind of things, as much as we could load. And we were going, traveling, on the train. It wasn't too bad, it stopped. And we came all the way to Lida, L-I-D-A. I don't remember how long it took us. It took us about 24 hours or 30 hours, because we made a lot of stops, and and people, and the trains were loaded, and everybody tried to get in, And we came there, and we're looking at a place where to go. So number one, we had the Rappaport, the people that I was working for them, they had a customer there. So I went. I had a letter. The Rappaports gave me, they knew that I'm going to leave. The Rappaports gave me a letter to this customer of theirs. Well, he couldn't do too much. He didn't know what to do, he said. We didn't need any money. We didn't need food. We had everything. We had, what you call it, in the United States, you have the bags that you carry stuff, all kind of things in you.
Knapsack.
Yeah, knapsack. So we had everything there.
Mm-hmm.
And so somehow we got into a dentist. It was an old man.
When you say we, this is you and Friedman?
Me and Friedman.
Right.
So how we got into him, I don't know. Either he met us on the street or we met him. We asked him something. He says, you don't have a place where to stay? Why don't you come and stay with us? We went to his place. He had a big apartment, an old house, big apartment. He gave us a room with everything, with pillows and this and that. And he says, make yourself at home. And that was Russia already,
Mm-hmm.
It was occupied by Russia. Well, our problem was how to go and get from there to Vilna.
Mm-hmm.
So we tried everything, and what we did, we were there about 2 or 3 days or 4 days, I don't remember, going the street, trying to fill out our way, this and that, whatever it was. So we go in the street, and we walk. A girl comes in, comes by, passes by. Girl, I don't know, she was 20, 22. She says in Yiddish, "You will gain a Vilna." In other words, you want to go to Vilna?
Right.
I was afraid to answer. I was just afraid to answer because I didn't trust. I didn't know who I'm talking. So this man, right away, answers. He says, "Yeah." He spoke a good Yiddish, you know. He says, "Yeah, Litvish Yiddish, you know." She says, "All right, if you want to go to Vilna, you have to be in this place, in a certain place." She gave us about 2 or 3 hours. And give me that much money. And I was afraid. We had the money, we had rubles as much as we this too. And I was afraid. I look at him, he says, took out the money, gives it to her. So we came to a place, she told us, we left everything, all our food, but we can't be left with a dentist. Him and his wife. He was a doctor, because he was a very, very nice guy. He tried very hard. It was cold. He didn't have enough coal. He didn't have wood, you know. But he took such good care of us. Whatever, he tried the best. So we left everything, all the food we had, we left with him. We figured we'll manage. We'll come to Vilna, so we'll do it. So she told us where to come. We came. There was another young lady.
You came to this place where she told you to meet.
us, a young lady, and there was an older woman. And she didn't tell me who she is. And a girl that we met, that was a man, a long white beard. It was in the afternoon, quite late in the afternoon. It was winter. It was cold, but we were quite well equipped. And he was davening. He was shuckling, you know, he was this and that, he was davening.
Is this the beginning of 1941 already?
That was beginning of 1941, you're right.
Right.
I don't remember what month it was. January or February, I didn't remember. And this and that, then they said, "You want something to drink? Like, what can you drink? Something good. Make some hot milk, you know." That nobody wanted. Then we all went in on a horse, on a wagon.
Who was this man with the white beard?
I'll get to it.
Mm-hmm.
So we went on a horse and wagon, we started to travel.
Now, who's in this horse and wagon? You, Friedman,
Me, Friedman,
this girl,
this girl, and another girl,
right?
and this old lady with the men.
Mm-hmm.
She's another bed 4.
4 in the family, and you and Friedman.
Yeah, six of us.
Mm-hmm.
We traveled and going and so and this and that. We did the best. And then we stopped at a place, and there were 2 guys, Gentile people,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And we stopped in a place, in a house. We got off there at a farm. It was at night, we didn't know what a farm. And the people there gave us milk. They wanted to give us bread. Naturally, this man with a long beard, he didn't drink anything. He didn't want to. Neither did his wife want to drink anything, because it was milk, was boiled, and that's what you did, you know. You boiled milk, you know, like here, you go and have a drink, and schnapps, and hot milk. And we stayed there for a couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
And then they said, "Now let us go." Yeah, let's go. Then we start to walk. You put everything, all your belongings, you know, and we start to walk like
So
this, and zigzag.
You abandoned the carriage over there?
Abandoned the carriage over there, and
Mhm.
we started to walk. And we had all kind of shooting. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
It was a border, patrolling borders, you know.
Let me just stop you just for 1 second. This house that you stopped at,
Yeah.
they were offering you food just because they were being generous?
No,
They were...
it was arranged, we paid for it, you see.
Mhm.
These people who took us, you know, these guys, they knew the way, and they arranged, everything was arranged, you
So
see.
nobody was able to eat anything. Were you able to drink the milk?
Yeah, sure drank.
But he didn't because he was...
Yeah. So we started to walk, but they had quite a bit of food. They had some salami.
You still haven't told me who this man was.
Yeah, get to it. Wait a moment. Get to it.
You're keeping me in suspense.
Well, so he had some salami. They had some schnapps. They call it 96. You know, very very strong liquor. You know what it is.
The man did. Who,
The man did. Yes. He found out his friend of mine, this Friedman, and we hear the shooting, this and that, and he got hungry, and he told to this man, he wants something to eat and drink. He said, I'm hungry. So the man said, he knew already his name. He says, wait, he says, but now we can do it. He says, you see this and that. So the man says, this Friedman, he says, if you don't give me, open the bottle and give me some salami, I'm going to yell loud. He was kidding, you know, he didn't mean it.
Mhm.
He got scared. They opened the uptake, they gave, he ate, I ate, never will ate, we're going. And we were walking and walking and walking. And it was getting a little, and we had all kind of shooting. Finally, they said, there's two guys who were our leaders, I mean our, whatever you call it, guides. Now you are in Lithuania. You don't have to worry.
I'm sorry. Which two guys?
There's two guys that, they were guides. I told you there's two guys who took us on a horse and wagon. There were two guys.
I didn't realize there were two separate people. I understand.
Sure, there were two
In other
people
words, they
that
drove the horse and
we
wagon.
didn't ride the horse and wagon. I mean, there were two guys.
Yeah.
And now you are in Lithuania. So they took me, and no, they took us all to a guy. He was a shoemaker, a Jewish shoemaker. They took us in there. They opened, they knocked the door, they opened, they made light. They didn't have any electric light, they did and that. And right away, the shoemaker had a small, 2 little rooms. Right away, the same thing, milk, this and that. And then this, what's his name, this man with a beard, his name was Malin, Rabbi Malin. He was the Rosh Bezen of Brisk.
That's the Jewish Court of Law.
Yeah, you had the Brisk. And the Brisk Roof, yeah. So he was the Rosh Bezen Malin. And now, if, I mean, I will skip it.
Let me just ask you one question. How did his daughter happen to pick you and Friedman out?
She saw some green people, some people working for something, you know, looking for something, you know.
Okay.
So she came up.
Now, once you were in Lithuania in the shoemaker's house, I mean, how far from Vilna were you?
How far? I'll tell you, I'll get to it.
Okay.
So then they came. There was a committee already. It was a small little town. You see, that's called Aishishok.
Mm-hmm.
The name, I don't know how to spell it. It was called Aishishok.
The name of the town?
The little town was Aishishok.
Okay.
That was already, it was Poland before.
Mm-hmm.
But then it became Lithuania, part of Vilna, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a committee, and they brought us all kind of goodies, rolls, fresh rolls, butter, anything you wanted.
What kind of committee? A committee of?
A Jewish committee.
Uh-huh.
Jewish committee, the joint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was already organized.
It was the joint
Oh,
already?
yeah, it was organized. It was well organized, and so on and so on, and this and that.
By this time, did you know what was going on in concentration camps?
No, we
death
didn't
camps?
know. We didn't know. No, we didn't know. We knew that's bad, you know, and so on, but we didn't know. We knew they sent away these people, so on.
Okay.
Okay. Now was a question how to go to Vilna.
Mm-hmm.
So we stayed there a whole day to rest, and a whole night. They took the rabbi, that was his name, you know, Rabbi Malin, him and his wife, and the daughters, they took away to another place to sleep, and we slept at the shoemaker. We stayed there, and we have everything, you know, the best. So in the morning, get ready, daven, if you want, you can daven, this and that, you know. this friend of mine he wasn't a religious guy, so he came from a very religious family. We went to a bus. Yes, so we went to a bus.
Right.
There was a bus waiting for us, take us to Vilna.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody went into the bus.
Except.
It comes to me. A soldier, a Lithuanian soldier, comes and grabs me. I should give him a passport. Because they were looking for people, who cross the border,
Mm-hmm.
So what happened, the bus, as soon as he started to talk to me, the bus disappeared. He closed the doors, it was everything arranged. And me and a few other guys were left.
Friedman was on the bus?
Yeah, Friedman was on the bus.
Okay.
Yeah, Friedman was on the bus, and I was there. And Friedman, through the window, he called me. You couldn't open the window today. He said, Shlomiel. That's what he says. So we're in the bus. He was on the bus. The
Rabbi Malin?
Rabbi Malin was his wife. But not everybody was there waiting for the bus. Not everybody could get in. I mean, there had so many people. Everything was planned.
And Malin's two daughters were also on the bus?
No, the daughters were not there. No. So what happened? As soon as this soldier started to talk to me, he asked me for the pass. A bunch of people surrounded him
Surrounded him. Mm-hmm.
and said, what do you want from him in Polish or Russian? You want money from him? They scared him, and right away they lynched me, took me away,
Grabbed you.
grabbed me and took me to a house. I don't know where, it was so fast, I stayed there in the house. Again, they brought me from Koltov. All the best, the food and this and that I wanted, And don't worry. It was a huge place, And at night, right? And at night, it became dark. We went in, they took me, there were some other guys on a horse, the same of not a carriage, a horse and wagon. With about 8 people could get in on this carriage. And said, sorry, we'll have to go by bus at night. And we're traveling in the middle of the night. By horse and wagon, it was cold.
Right.
We stopped again in some farm's place, Again, the same thing, hot milk, but we didn't need it. And we came in the morning, the next day we came to Vilna. And while walking, so this man Friedman, he was looking for me. He knew that, they told him, I don't know how long it took by bus, about 2 or 3 hours, but we traveled the whole night. He knew that I would come. He was waiting somehow. He was waiting for buses and this and that. And all of a sudden I see somebody calls me, Shlomiel, where are you? Came, and right away we got an apartment. Not an apartment, we got a nice room. We rented a room. And we stayed there for quite a while. And there was Jewish organizations, all kinds of Jewish organizations, and they had a lot of refugees came, and they took care of us. They had kitchens, gave you places, and they gave you money, they gave you everything, all cultive. And what happened? In Newton, the moves, the guy who was supposed to get,
It disappeared.
he disappeared. He got caught by the Lithuanians,
Mm-hmm.
and they kept him for 2 or 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
And then they bailed him out, they committed the joint, whatever it is, they could do anything, for money and everything, they bailed him out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the story about the Nutri.
And so you found him in Vilna.
Yeah, found him in Vilna, and I was a little bit mad at him, this and that. He told me stories, all kind of things. He figured that he would be able to take his grandfather with him. That the grandfather was an old man, he couldn't, I even had a capote I was wearing for Shabbos. I wasn't so frum. I was frum, but I didn't wear this. But Shabbos, so I gave it to his grandfather. That was the day I came to Vilna. Are we going further?
Certainly.
Huh?
Yes.
All right.
So the day you come to Vilna, so let's just figure out when this is. This is in February
February or March.
February and March 1941.
1941, yeah, I guess.
1941.
No, I think it was 1940. It was 1941?
Mhm.
Yeah, 1941, yeah. Yeah, it was 1941. Okay, there's one thing I have to add there. I was going to...
Let me stop you just for 1 second.
Okay?
All right, so 1941, February
All right.
or March in Vilna.
Now I want to add up one thing. I was a young boy, and we lived in Kelkov. So I used to go to a cheder.
When you were a young boy, you said?
Yeah, when I was
Right.
that I moved, I don't know, I was 14 years old.
Right.
And then when we lived in the other place in the country, I used to go to cheder, to the city. I used to get and all kind of things. I used to walk. When I was bigger, I'm not talking when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, and it was very, very tough. You were wearing this payas, you know, and all the shkutzim always start to wait for you, you know, gentle boys, to tell you payas and this and that, you know. It wasn't so rosy.
Mhm.
So it was all actually going there. It was like Kiddush Hashem, you know, to going to school in the little towns. It wasn't that bad, but they're always happy, you know, the Jewish people. Okay, now we're back in Vilna.
Mm-hmm.
We were in Vilna. And in Vilna we started over again. There was Mr. Frankel, maybe you heard of Mr. Frankel. He's now in Israel. He's the one that when I came to Billy's Biala to work, I got a job at his brother.
Mm-hmm.
So he's the one who recommended.
So Vilna was completely safe at the time.
Yes, because it was Lithuania.
I understand.
However, officers came, you know, once they came, they made a whole report, write a whole report, how I came, you know, when did you come, because if you came before the Russians, before Lithuania marched in, you are safe.
Mm-hmm.
But if you came afterwards, so you smuggled the border, but it was the committee arranged everything, you see. They did everything for you. And okay, so we were in Vilna, and we did all kind of business. And then you tried, in fact, I tried to get, and my bosses were still in Lemberg.
Mm-hmm.
And well, it wasn't that bad. They were in Lemberg. Nobody bothered them for the time being. I mean, the Russians didn't bother them too much. They had money. And what they did, they tried that I should make arrangements if they should come to Vilna, what arrangement I can make for them. Well, I tried, it didn't work out. Tried to get some guides for them. I don't know, anyway, one was sent to Siberia,
Mm-hmm.
one of the brothers, and the other one the Germans killed.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't go. So the one who went to Siberia, he got through the whole thing, and afterwards he went to, after the war, he went to Israel. He opened a mill. When I was in 1969 in Israel, I went to visit him. It was very, very nice. He's dead now. Okay, so we were in Vilna. Didn't take too long. I don't know the days, what happened. They called the Lithuanian prime minister. The president's name was Smetana.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the prime minister was Merkis, whatever it was, I don't remember. They called him to Moscow. But he was in Moscow. As I told you, Lithuania was a small little town.
Country.
when the Russians marched in back to Vilna. Not only to Vilna, but to all Lithuanian. They didn't have, I mean, they couldn't fight, they just had a few soldiers, you know.
They took back control.
They took back, not only Vilna did they take back.
Of the entire country of
Of the
Lithuania.
entire country. Well, here we started all over again. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We started all over again, what to do, and so on, and this and that, and we started to do business, we started to do this, and we had to go away. So there was a Polish consulate, and there was all the consulate in Kovna. That was Lithuania. So we tried to get out. It was in Vilna, was the Mir Yeshiva, was yeshivas, and all they came to Vilna, all kind of yeshivas. They smuggled and they came to Vilna, right?
Do you know when the Mir Yeshiva came to Vilna?
Not exactly. They didn't come as a group. Afterwards they came, you know. They did the same thing as we did, you know. They smuggled.
Right.
Some came before. So we tried to get out from Vilna. Meantime, I got news that my family's all right. The whole family, you know. My father, and but it wasn't so.
Who gave you this news?
There were some people who smuggled, you know. They came,
Right.
they had, and this and that. Maybe they had a few months ago they were all right. But I didn't find out until after the war, actually. So we tried to do something. So say, came out, especially the yeshiva, that if you can get a visa to go to Curacao. You know where Curacao is? East India. If you can go to Curacao, you can go to Curacao, but you have to get a transit visa from Russia and an exit visa from Lithuania.
Now,
Because
who,
Lithuania, it was occupied by Russia, but still it was called, they made it like a republic in a puppet government, but it wasn't actually, they couldn't do nothing. So how do we get it?
now, who told you that if you could get this exit visa to Curacao, somebody from the...
People you know on the street, you know, you had an organization, don't forget, the organizer was a rabbi, it was Trockenheim. You know who Trockenheim was?
How do you spell the name? Trockenheim?
Trockenheim. He was a senator in the Polish days. It was Levin, you know Rabbi Levin? He writes in the Allgemeine Dr. Levin. Now, so in the pictures, he's an old man, but you know, so it was an organization. Everything was, except when the Russians came, they started to keep, knock off everything. So, but you took a chance. But how do you know? Because how did you get a Curacao and so on? There was a boy, a young man. He was a Dutch citizen. And he went to the Dutch consulate in Kovna,
Right.
which was the main thing. He says, what do I do? Where do I go? He says, why don't you go to Curacao? Go and get a visa, right? You had to get, no, right, you have to get a Russian transit visa and a Japanese transit visa. There's two visas you had to get,
Okay.
transit visas. So he asked, how could I go to Curacao? He says, well, you can go to Curacao because, number one, you have a Dutch citizen, which belongs to India. India was already occupied by the Germans. Not India, but Holland.
Right.
Holland was occupied by the Germans. He says I couldn't go to Holland.
Right.
So the consulate told him, number one, you're a Dutch citizen. You don't have to have a visa. And number two, anybody can go there. You only need a Japanese and Russian transit visa. So what happened? We're going back and forth. You know, Frankel was living in, the same Frankel I was talking. He was living in Kovna, you know. from Vilna, he went to Kovna. He moved to Kovna. And we used to deal with him in all kind of things. You know, he was very, very nice. And he helped me also a little bit, and he told me what to do. Meantime, the Russians, as long as they closed up the Japanese consulate, right? And they closed up the Dutch consulate.
Mm-hmm.
And they closed up, these two consulates. Why? Because as soon when the Russian occupied Lithuania, they said they don't need a consulate. The consulate was in Moscow, in Russia.
Right.
So what did people do? You couldn't go, and they closed up the Polish consulate. You couldn't go and get a visa. By the way, the Polish consulate ran out of passports also, when he was there in Kovna. So they used to make false visas.
Mm-hmm.
Missed a passport. The passport was just a piece of paper. It wasn't a regular passport. And used to make stamps, a Japanese stamp, in a Russian transit, in a Dutch entry and everything. And the Russians knew everything.
Whose idea was it to go to Curacao?
This yeshiva boy from Miri,
Was it his idea? Is he the one who...
he's the one who got the idea from the Dutch consulate.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one who got the idea, and he spread, and he started to make, and I guess some people said he made a lot of money. The Dutch consulate gave him a stamp.
Mm-hmm.
It was a genuine stamp, It was stamp to go. Anyway, but before that,
What was it? Do you know his name?
no, I wouldn't know his name.
Mm-hmm.
So people start to do it and go and get the visas, go to Kovna and get transit visas and get the passports and so on. And that's the way we got it. We
Okay.
went to Vilna. Meantime, at the same time, I became very friendly with this Rabbi Malin.
Mm-hmm.
I was at Pesach. I used to come every day there. And I was just like one of the families. Unfortunately, he didn't come, but he has two sons, His two sons, they came.
What happened to his two daughters?
They couldn't get out. It was too late for them. But two sons, they were in Shanghai.
Wait, before we get to Shanghai,
Yeah.
how long
All right.
was it before you actually left Vilna?
How long? What do you mean by how long?
How many months? How long were you in Vilna?
In Vilna, we didn't even stay a year. I think it was 1941. It was beginning or middle of 1941. Vilna, we left. It was winter.
Did you go together with anybody else
Where?
to Curacao?
You didn't go to Curacao. Who in the world went to Curacao? You didn't go to Curacao. Who wanted to go to Curacao?
You said that you wanted to get...
No, you just wanted to show the Japanese government
That you had
and
an
the Russians
extra...
that you have a place where to go, otherwise I wouldn't give you a visa.
Right.
But then you didn't want to go to Curacao.
No, I understand.
In fact, I didn't have a visa to Curacao at all because they closed up.
Right.
So I only had a visa, a transit visa, Japanese, but mine was a genuine transit visa.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy who gave the transit visa to Russia, his name was Schlossberg. He was a commissar. He was a young fellow. He was a communist. He was in jail, was a Lithuanian, and so he came out. He was a brilliant guy.
Mm-hmm.
But he gave very respect to all the people, and he's the one who gave visas, transit visas. So they came, and how long do we have to go now?
Well, I'd like to know, where you went from Vilna. I'd like to know who you went with
Okay,
from Vilna.
but one thing I have to say something about Vilna.
Mm-hmm. And you were in Vilna, we still are not sure how long.
No, I don't know.
Less than a year.
Yeah, but while I was in Vilna, I tried to help people. So once I was in a place, again, these people, the Rappaports, they were in touch with me, but it was already the what you call it, the post, that communication wasn't that good.
Right.
And what happened, I wrote them a postcard in Russian. I did not write Russian, but somebody else, but I figured it will go through faster. And I went to a guy, it was a Jewish family, and they were arranging, what you call it, how to get out from Russia. That was still when Lithuania was there in
Right.
Vilna.
Mm-hmm.
Then it belonged to Lithuania. So I went to this smuggler, with a Jewish couple. I went in there and I walked out. The two detectives got a hold of me, Lithuanians,
Right.
and they searched me, they looked this and that and everything. They couldn't find too much. They found a postcard, that I wrote that I'm trying to do for them. So I took the postcard while they were searching me. I tore it up and I took it and swallowed some of it, I think, if I recall. So they put me in jail. But it was still the joint, and I was in jail about a day and a half.
Was there a charge, or they didn't need a charge to put you in jail?
What do you mean charge?
What
They
did they
charged me
what
because
did they charge you with?
They charged me with being a smuggler,
Okay.
because I walked out from this place,
Right.
But as I said, it was an organization.
Mhm.
Which was everything, Lithuania, you could do everything.
Mm-hmm.
So let me out. Okay. Now you want to know how I came to China.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we went. I want a visa. I got a Polish passport, and I got a transit visa from the Russians and the Japanese, right? I didn't have any visa to go to Warsaw. So we went. I didn't have any money from Vilna to go. You had to go to Vladivostok. You made the arrangement, it cost you about $200, $250 American dollars. Well, I wrote to my relatives here in the United States, so on, and this and that. Well, they didn't send me the money, but I have enough money. We went just by train. A lot of people went by train.
Who were your relatives here in the United States?
Beg your pardon? All right.
Yeah.
Now you want to know how they came before, you see. How they came, I don't know how they came.
Who are you talking about now?
These two brothers of Mullins.
No, I just want to know now, about how you got to Shanghai, when you went to Shanghai, who did you go to Shanghai with?
Who did I go to Shanghai?
Yes,
No,
you left.
we are not yet at Shanghai.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
but,
I know, but I mean, the trip, I know, between Vilna and Shanghai was a long trip, so I would like to know, when you left Vilna, who did you leave Vilna with?
Well, I left Vilna. I went there. We left Vilna. See, I got all the papers.
Right.
And I was supposed to go with another girl. Well, she wanted to go with me. What's his name? The same girl that she asked me if I want to go to Vilna, that she met me in the street. We were very friendly, We went to movies, we went to this and that. We were quite friendly.
Mm-hmm.
So she wanted to go. We were supposed to make an artificial marriage, She could go on my passport. Anyway, it didn't work out. So I was supposed to go with a girl, maybe Shlomi Shapira.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
She was in Vilna and she was teaching me English. She lived in New York. I was supposed to go with her first to Vladivostok, right?
Right.
All right, so we came to the train and I had all kind of food, we prepared food, you took, all kind of food, whatever you get, canned food, whatever. And we came to the train was so crowded that she got pushed into the train, and I was left behind again. Went back. She had my suitcase, I had her suitcase, and so on and so on and so on. So I took it the next day. I took a train. Right? And you see the reason why, because I didn't buy any, I didn't give any American dollars. If you give American dollars, they arranged everything for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you ask them, it's called interest, if you ask them in common, I don't have any, where do I get American dollars? You know what I told you? There was going on a black market, and they knew it. He said, you go there, you buy American dollars. You see, if they caught you with American dollars, it was the Russians, right?
Mm-hmm.
They could put you in jail. They put you out in jail. However, if they caught you and you had a visa, you said you are going away, and you need the money, the visa, the money, the American dollars to pay for the transportation, everything was fine. They let you go. So I got in the train. The next day, I didn't have food. I had problems, you know. And every few, I don't know, quite every few hours, every station, some commissar came, documents. He wanted to document, you know, this and that. But so I had everything. And we went all the way. We came to Moscow. Right?
Who were you traveling with?
By myself, actually.
And you had no affiliation at the time with the Mir Yeshiva?
No.
Mm-hmm.
No. I came to Moscow.
Mm-hmm.
Came to Moscow. We got off the train, and you had there's a hotel. It's called the Interest Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
You went there, and you were fighting this and that. He said they gave me an interpreter in German. You can stay. How did you come? You didn't yet. You haven't got. You are not with interest, and this and that. Finally, they gave you a room, and then you had to wait for a train to go further.
Mm-hmm. Where was your ultimate destination? Where were you planning to go?
I had no. I had planned to get out of Russia.
I know, but out to where?
Out, I figured I would go to Israel.
Mm-hmm.
From there, I would go to Canada. I would go to the United States, wherever I could go.
Mm-hmm.
Israel, well, you couldn't do it that time, you know.
But when you left Vilna,
Yeah.
where did you think you were going to end up before going to Palestine or United States?
Shanghai.
So you already knew, had people already gone to Shanghai?
Yeah, no, they didn't go there. They were in the middle of going.
They were in the middle of going. So in other words, this was a known fact that one could go to Shanghai.
Because that's the only place to let you in. You didn't need a visa. They let you in.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people came. So we stopped in Moscow, a nice hotel. And we stayed in Moscow. We went to see, we were visiting, Lenin and Lenin, whatever it is, and the, what you call it, the Kremlin.
Mm-hmm.
You visit, nobody bothered you. And you went, you want to buy bread, you want to buy things, and you are a foreigner, so you didn't stay in line. There were lines standing, hundreds of people, you just went in. People were very nice. And I went to a restaurant there. There was a restaurant there at Interest. I went there. I remember what I ate. It was supposed to be some broiled fish. It was delicious.
Mm-hmm.
And a guy came up and started to talk to me in Yiddish. It was very nice. And he had a drink too, bought me a drink and started to talk a little bit. A guy my age, maybe older, he told me his age, he was started, and then he started to cry, like he was jealous, he envied me that I'm going away, I told him where I'm going because, by the way, I had a friend of mine, which I was very close with him in Vilna. I tried to get him out, I sent him telegrams, nothing. He was late. So this guy, we were sitting at the hotel, at a restaurant. And all the people, a lot of people that I'm in interest, rabbis and all kinds of things, the Mir Yeshiva and this and that, And he came...
So at this time then, the Mir Yeshiva is already in the process.
In the process, yes. So, and he was very nice, this guy. He spoke Yiddish. He told me he's an engineer, this and that. So a guy comes up to him and tells him in Russian, Zaplati and davai. It means pay your bill and come with me. That was the end of it. Probably they arrested him, because they saw, because of this, you see. Okay, then we went.
Do you have any idea why they arrested him?
Yeah, because he was talking, too much, what he shouldn't. What he shouldn't in Russia. He was talking in Yiddish, whatever it is, and somebody had him, there was agents all over.
Right.
Jewish agents, so that's why they. So it took us a few days. I got acquainted with people, so on. I took taxis, we were going, and said, we needed to prolong the visa, because you had a chance to be in Russia that many days. We went without no difficulty. And we took Trans-Siberia Railroad.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe someone else was on this train. And I had some food. You could get food on the train. Maybe you were not so particular, but you didn't need non-kosher, but you did the best. Because as I told you, this girl took away all the food.
Switched.
We switched.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going, and the time some Jews came up on the train, They were going from one place to another. And they said, oh, where do you go? Oh, to America, and this and that. Took out a bottle of vodka and started to drink, got shaky, fell asleep, started to cry, all kind of things, And then I got a good, very, very good see at night. They gave you go about 12 days. So I had they had benches, on the train. And then they gave you blankets, to cover at night. You had to sleep. But I got with the conductor, even with him. I gave him something, whatever it is. He was the head. And he gave me miyachki, soft, in other words, soft seats. In the night you opened the bed, and regular. It was like the American trains.
Mm-hmm.
But every few stations, naturally, again, they came, asking for passes and all kind of things. Finally, we arrived to Vladivostok. You know where Vladivostok is? Huh? On the border, where it's a seaport, which is, from there we had to go to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And there...
It's a seaport where?
Vladivostok, east.
Right.
And again, we had problems getting in.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we had getting into that.
I want to make sure I understand one thing. The whole route to Shanghai, I mean, you said this young Dutch boy was responsible. Was he actually responsible for...
He gave the tip.
He gave the tip.
That's all.
And then people started talking about it.
Started among themselves. They became, all kind of black market dealings and that. But I'm talking black market. I want to mention one name. So while I'm walking in the street,
Right.
in Vilna.
Right.
That was the direction when I had my papers and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So a guy comes up to me. Finkelstein, a guy, he was dressed, it was winter, it was cold, this and that, and this asked me, how do I get a visa? How do I get a visa? You want to go? So I look at him, I was afraid to talk to him, because I didn't know who he was. So the other guy, Finkelstein, he was going with another fellow, says, Moshe, you can talk to him. So I told him, go to this and this place. These people were from Bilis Biala, and they were manufacturers, rich people, two brothers and a son. And they were involved there, they're making the false visas.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you go up to them, I gave him the address, and tell them we played cards, a certain game, and tell them, Simon, what a game, they didn't have a telephone, that I won, or they won, whatever it is, tell them this. Who was it? Fred Hendelis.
Mm-hmm.
And how that's how Fred Hendelis got the visa with his brother. So anyway, I came to Vladivostok. I got into Vladivostok. Me, Fishev got in the same time, and we went to the hotel.
Fishev was also not with the yeshiva.
Yes, he was with the yeshiva. He was with the Lublina yeshiva.
Mm-hmm. But they weren't traveling as a group.
No,
the yeshiva. They were traveling.
Yeah, So I did this one got earlier, this one got later. So the Fischoff, we came, and there was the director from the hotel, or the manager. He was a Jewish fellow. Quite a young man, I would say, in his late 30s, early 40s. And you could see that he had rachmanis, you know, he had pity and this and that. So he came up to me. The Fischoff started to talk to him in Russian. Fischoff was very, very, very capable. He learned Russian very fast.
Did you know this man Fischoff before?
Yes, I knew him, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I knew Fischoff in Vilna.
Mm-hmm.
So Fischoff started talking, the night I talked, anyway, he gave me a room.
Mm-hmm.
He gave me a room with another guy. 2 days later, and then we had to wait to go from there to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
2 days later, who showed up? Laser handlers with Fred.
Mm-hmm. These are two brothers.
His two brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And they said they come to what you call it again. No room for them, because they didn't come. They did the same thing as I did. They went without interest. You see, without this, they went on their own, and they went with not with American dollars, but they went with rubles. You see,
Mm-hmm.
because let's say the official rate was about 5 rubles to $1.
Mm-hmm.
But the black market was 50.
Mm-hmm.
So instead giving, maybe they had the money, maybe they didn't have the money, maybe they didn't have the American dollars. So let's say for you could go to Vladivostok for $10 American dollars instead of